Take a pill, do a skill. Don't take a pill and chill. Take a pill, do a skill originated in IOP and trying to help people understand how to rewire their brain to not over crave chemicals and create tolerance of having to use the same chemical over and over and over. So when you take a pill and you do a skill, you're actually creating a balance of the pill triggering behaviors instead of the pill triggering more chemicals. The phenomenon of tolerance is that an individual has to use more of the same substance to get the same desired effect. If I take 1 shot of alcohol today, it's not going to do the same thing tomorrow, so I have to take 2 shots of alcohol. And medication is similar, but it takes a longer time for the medication to actually build up a tolerance. And so if I'm taking 1 pill in the morning and it doesn't work and I take 2 pills and then I take 3 pills, before too long I'm taking 4 a day, 5 a day, 6 a day, 7 a day. And we don't want to create an addiction to the medication as a replacement for the addiction to substances. So we're trying to find a balance of using medication to balance the brain and help stabilize, but also using behavioral activities and mental, thought-provoking, stimulation to be able to balance the brain with more natural, and chemical combinations. So the prefrontal cortex is the front part of the brain, and it's actually the last part of the brain to develop, because the brain develops from the brainstem up. And the prefrontal cortex is in charge of executive functioning, rational thinking, and decision making. And so when the prefrontal cortex, it starts the signal and sends a signal, on a neural pathway to the limbic system, where the receptors are in the limbic system, and then it releases chemicals that gives us emotional experiences. And so the neurotransmitters are like vehicles traveling from the prefrontal cortex, from the limbic system, and there's a two-way highway. There's an excitatory highway and there's an inhibitory highway, just kind of metaphorically. The excitatory highway is stimulation and energy messages, and the inhibitory highway is sedation, calming, and relaxing messages. The main inhibitory neurotransmitter is GABA, and the main excitatory neurotransmitter is glutamate. Glutamate is also the chemical of memory formation. And so glutamate remembers how chemicals were released. And so if you have anxiety and you drink alcohol, then your brain remembers when there is anxiety, alcohol is a chemical combination that occurs. And so it's a pattern that starts to get created. And every time there's anxiety, glutamate sends a signal and says, hey, you have anxiety, let's drink alcohol. And so really what we're trying to do in treatment is to change the glutamate and to create new memories of chemical releases that are healthy. So when you have anxiety and you pair meditation or you pair a skill in that way, then it starts to create a new pattern and new memories. And so glutamate is also an excitatory neurotransmitter that creates energy. And so as you are creating memories, you are creating energy, neurological activity in your brain that is healthy. And it is not chemically stimulated from a drug or alcohol or medication. It's being stimulated from the memory that's being recorded by the behavior and the chemical combinations that is going on in your brain at that time. Dopamine is an excitatory and an inhibitory neurotransmitter that dopamine levels go very, very low when someone is recovering from alcohol and drugs, because when you use alcohol and drugs, there's very, very high spikes of dopamine. Food and sex give you a 10% increase from baseline in dopamine, and drugs and alcohol, could give you a 50% increase in that spike of dopamine. And using dopamine in a natural way is also highly recommended in order to get the dopamine levels back to a threshold that can be achieved naturally instead of a chemical threshold that's really off. We want to get back to homeostasis, which is a natural balance of chemicals and a natural balance of the dopamine level being able to be achieved naturally without chemicals being able to stimulate it. One of the goals of treatment is to become aware of the source of excitatory and inhibitory stimulation. And so if you're not intentionally choosing a behavioral source for chemical stimulation, for relaxation and energy, then your brain will automatically produce that itself. And the way that it does that, it'll do it with anxiety for energy or stress for energy, or it'll do depression for relaxation. And all those are unhealthy, but it does what the brain needs it to do to get it that balance of energy and sedation. The sources of inhibitory and excitatory stimulation, starting off as some examples of substance use. When you have alcohol and opiates are a really effective inhibitory, source of sedation, but it's unhealthy. It does what it needs to do to get the brain relaxed and calm and sedated, but then it creates a cycle of only being able to be sedated with those chemicals in the brain. The other thing is substance use for excitatory or stimulant sources would be things like methamphetamines and cocaine. And if you don't have the substance abuse actually occurring, then there's cravings. And so cravings come into play with, if I have a lot of anxiety, I might crave alcohol. If I have a lot of depression, I might crave meth, to create that balance. And so your brain starts doing these things. The other thing is the emotional inhibitory sedation source is mostly depression, and the emotional and excitatory stimulant sources are usually anxiety and stress and anger. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create an awareness around behavioral inhibitory sedation sources that you can use to be able to create natural stimulation in your brain. These things would be like paced breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, reading, meditation, prayer, drinking hot tea, aromatherapy. Lavender is really good with depression, taking a hot shower or bath to relax, counting backwards, give yourself a hand massage, or brush your hair. So those are different things that you can do at the same time that as you take the medication for depression. You can do these skills, or you take medication for anxiety, you can do these skills to stimulate your brain and get the chemical makeup of the medication with these behavioral sources. That way there's a longer lasting effect of the sedation or the energy. So some of the behavioral excitatory energy sources are like intense exercise, drinking water, ice cold water sometimes will just kind of get you going, energize you. Listen to upbeat music, dancing, cleaning inside, whether you're doing dishes, laundry, vacuuming, cleaning the bathrooms, or cleaning outside. Yard work, sweeping, doing gardening is a good thing too. And then laughter. Anytime you laugh, your brain's going to have excitatory stimulation flowing. Eating regularly is also really important. A lot of people don't eat, and it's also a very good source of neurochemical stimulation in your brain. And so eating regularly. And then open the curtains. It's a simple thing. Sometimes just opening the curtains, getting some sun will allow you to have that energy kind of spike in your brain when you're, when you see the sun. And then taking a cold shower, or using, some kind of cold water to change the temperature to be able to kind of wake yourself up and get yourself some energy. Medication is an essential piece in helping individuals balance the chemical makeup of the brain when experiencing severe anxiety and depression, but we don't want to over rely on the medication to be able to solve that problem. If someone, if I ask someone, they say they have depression, and I say, what's your coping skills for depression? And if someone looks at me and says, well, I take my medication, well, we have to supplement the medication with behaviors, because then there's just an over-reliance on the medication to solve the problem. We have the ability to change the glutamate neurotransmitter, which is the chemical of memory formation, by recording the repeated action of take a pill, do a skill at the same time. And if you do it at the same time, it creates a memory of a chemical association of the pill and the skill. And that's what we're trying to do, is create a new chemical memory and then have more memories. So I remember when I was in school, and I grew up in a big school, and we had there was a gym in the middle, and then there was two wings that went east and west. And the first day of school, I ended up on the west wing, way in the corner, and I was looking for the science class, but it was the art class, And then the next day, I was like, well, that's art class over there, science class over here. So I went over here. I didn't go back to the art class no more, And every day that I walked, I remembered more which way to walk, and then I almost just went there automatically. And so the more times that you do this combination of taking the medication and, doing the skill, your brain remembers that. and then it becomes a pattern and it becomes routine, and you have to force it and you have to schedule it and you have to be on top of how you create this new habit, because habits don't form on accident. You have to form them and you have to force them. And if you force the habit and then it's formed, then it will become automatic and you can have a more healthy functioning brain. And that's the goal. When somebody takes a pill for anxiety, most anxiety medication provides some sort of sedation chemical release in the brain to calm and relax the brain, like GABA, gabapentin or something like that. So at the same time that you take the pill for anxiety, if you do a skill for energy, such as, something like intense exercise or drink water or listen to upbeat music. And if you did all three of those things, at the same time that you took your pill, then now the pill and the skills are stimulating the brain and balancing the brain with energy. So anxiety is the excitatory, energy source. And then you do these skills and now you have the skills that are also balancing the anxiety. The gabapentin, is become the sedation source for the brain because it was used to calm from anxiety. So now we want to do a skill for relaxation. So if I take a pill for anxiety, I do some kind of intense exercise, drink water, listen to upbeat music, and then backdoor it with some paced breathing, some progressive muscle relaxation and reading. Now my brain has all the natural sources and chemical sources combination to have a healthy makeup, which is probably going to help me feel a lot better. Because now I'm not over relying on medication and wanting more medication or feeling off or having too much of the meds and then the anxiety spikes when you're taking depressive medication. Sleeping is not a skill. Sleeping is rest. We need rest. We all need rest. And, it's something that you definitely need to do. But as a rule of thumb, before you rest, do something relaxing. Listen to some music. Do a guided meditation. Do something that's calming. Whatever you can do to add additionally to the response of depression is going to help balance it. The over-reliance on medication in our country, in our world, and everybody wants the quick fix. Everybody wants instant gratification. And that can't always happen, and you have to put in work and you have to put in some time to be able to create a plan for yourself, because everybody's going to be different. There's an individual process, of each person is going to respond differently to medication, to emotions, to situations, to behaviors, to food, all of it. So you have to find what works for you. And you're going to have to find a combination, if it is medication, with a behavioral prescription and find a balance. There's never going to be, a fix in a pill. Like, it's not going to happen. Medication is like putting on the suit to go to the interview, but you don't get the job if you stay at your house. So you have to be able to go to the interview and do all the things that you need to do to prepare yourself for the interview, and your resume and all your reasons why you're the best person for the job. If you take the medication and you have a nice suit on and you sit in your couch, then you just have a really nice suit on. If you take the medication and you go get the job, now the behavior has allowed you to change the course of your hope and your dreams and your moment and your awareness and all the things that you're doing. And hopefully, that choice can be something that you continue to make. Individuals that are getting out of addiction, have self-medicated, and many times the medication is used as a supplement or a replacement, and you don't want to use the medication as a replacement for the substance, because then you're going to get addicted to medication, especially if you abuse the medication. How do you not abuse medication? You take it as prescribed. And so at the times if I take anxiety medication in the morning and I take it at night, and in the middle of the day I feel anxiety, but if I'm taking a pill and doing a skill in the morning, taking a pill and doing skills at night, in the middle of the day, my skills will get me through what I need to get through. Because now the skills are being used every day, and they are in combination, with response to anxiety. And so I'm training that response. Use more skills instead of more pills. And if you do, you're going to have a healthy balance in your brain, and you're going to be able to continue to make progress to be the person and have the chemical makeup that you want today, and be able to smile and not have a chemical driving that smile, but you're driving that smile. So drive your smiles and take a pill, do a skill. Don't take a pill and chill.